anomaly came out of Antarctica the day after the solar eclipse on April 9th, 2024 may not have been a glitch after all, and Google Earth might have just captured something in that location as well. Now, if you're not aware, Ventusky was the only weather app, or supposedly the only weather app to capture this massive anomaly between Antarctica and Africa. They came out and they made a statement on Twitter or X stating, despite numerous reports of UFOs or Atlanteans launching from the ocean, yesterday's image of giant waves near Africa was due to a model error. Fortunately, our provider, the German Meteorological Institute, has already resolved it and the forecast is fine. So, of course, a significant number of people do not believe Ventusky. So Ventusky, they go ahead and make a second post stating a significant number of people still do not believe that the giant waves off Africa were just an error and prefer UFO theories. What can we do as a visualization platform? Add more sources. Therefore, we are incorporating another wave model from respective source Meteo France. That's great. That's fine. They were able to find the error. They don't know what caused the error. They were able to find it and remove it. But here's what Ventusky is not telling people. What they're not telling people is that they are only able to remove the predicted path that this massive anomaly was going to take, that path going into the Atlantic Ocean. That is Ventusky's model forecast, their prediction of the path that this massive anomaly is going to take. In my previous video, I was able to screen record a portion of Into Thin Air's video. And in that video, it shows the path that this massive anomaly takes. It leaves Africa and it makes its way to the Atlantic Ocean. But if you go to Ventusky's site now and you choose the dates between the 11th and the 19th, you can no longer see this massive anomaly between these dates. You can no longer see the movement that this thing takes. So again, Ventusky was able to delete their predicted forecast, but they did not delete what is currently there, what was seen on satellites between the 9th and the 10th. And you have to ask yourself why. If this was a glitch, if this was an error, then why is this still there? So like I said, this was only seen by the Ventusky app and whatever satellites captured this image. But there is actually something very bizarre on Google Earth as well. So as you can see, I am in the exact location where this massive anomaly was seen between South Africa and Antarctica. Now, if you look on Google Earth, you can see white dots, and those white dots are indicators that there is either some kind of island, some kind of country, some kind of city, some kind of land, some kind of territory. Those white dots indicate that there is something indeed there. In the location of that massive anomaly, there is one single white dot, and this one single white dot happens to be unnamed. So let's go ahead and zoom into this white dot, and remember, this is the same location that this massive anomaly was seen. So as we zoomed in, we didn't zoom in on a white dot at all. What we actually zoomed into was an island. Now, at first, I thought this was some kind of crater. Before you zoom in all the way, it does look like some kind of crater, that something used to be there. But as you zoom in more and more, this definitely looks like some kind of island off to itself. Now, there are other islands near and around Antarctica. For instance, you can zoom in over here, you will see what's called Elephant Island. You zoom in over to the right, you'll see Coronation Island, Signy Research Station, and Orcada's Base. So when you zoom out, a lot of these small white dots happen to be islands. So then what is that island over there where that massive anomaly was seen coming out from? Well, this island oddly has no name. Maybe it's an undiscovered island. I am sure there are other islands and other locations on Google Earth that are not named as well, that are not discovered. But what are the odds we have this island here, the same location this massive anomaly was seen? Is this some type of testing location? Well, can we go into the 3D? Well, let's see what we can go ahead and find on this island, because it does look like it lets us go into 3D mode. Now, something could be underground here. There could be some kind of underground base, some kind of underground testing facility. So if we don't see anything above, does not mean that something's taking place below. But we don't know what's taking place underground this island, or if there's some kind of secret opening I'm just not catching. But isn't it just odd that there is this island off by itself with no name in the exact same spots that this massive anomaly appeared on Ventusky? So if this massive anomaly was not an error or a glitch, then what was it? Well, there are multiple theories ranging from a glitch to a UFO, or to even a portal, or some kind of giant ship, a dragon egg, or so forth. But out of all the theories, I actually like the portal theory. Now, I made a video on this a few days prior to the total eclipse, the solar eclipse, that CERN released the fact checkers, and the fact checker stated that CERN definitely was not opening a portal. Why? Because it's impossible. So when the fact checkers are released to fact check a specific subject, it's best to look at that subject a little closer. Now, many people believe that whatever this thing is actually moving north to the coast of South Africa, but I don't believe so. I think whatever this is actually expanding outward. Because if you take a closer look, it's actually not moving. It's actually getting bigger and bigger and bigger. So to me, it looks like this is expanding outward. What we think are 80+ foot water waves might not be waves at all, or waves coming from the ocean. This might be the portal itself. Something is coming from the portal giving a wave effect. This would explain why these waves are not destroying Africa or South America, because if this was something huge, if it was something this big that was actually moving, producing these waves, then we would see the coast of Africa and the coast of South America just engulfed. But this is stationary. This is actually expanding outward. This is some kind of energy that's expanding outwards that was captured on satellites. I do believe that we are looking at either some kind of portal, or perhaps we are looking at another dimension crossing paths with our dimension. Whatever this is does not shrink in size. It does not slowly go away. It just pops. It just instantly vanishes. It closes.
For this is Bouvet Island, the most remote island on Earth. Bouvet Island was first discovered by its namesake, Jean-Baptiste Charles Bouvet de Lozier, in the year 1939. He believed that it represented the tip of a yet undiscovered large southern continent, Terra Australis, and named the peninsula that he spotted Cape Circumcision, after the feast celebrated on the day of its discovery. It was then subsequently lost due to inaccurate plotting by the aforementioned Bouvet, until 1808, a mere 69 years later, where it was rediscovered by James Lindsay, who correctly preserved its position. It was declared for the British Crown, then promptly annexed by Norway in 1927, and renamed Bouvetøya, which just means Bouvet Island in Norwegian. It was in 1955 that the South African government expressed an interest in establishing a weather station on the island, and sent the Transvaal to scout out a suitable location. This was not to be, as there was simply no area wide and flat enough to support such an installation. It wasn't until 1958 when it was reported that a small volcanic eruption had occurred and created a sizable plateau that Crawford and the Protector were sent to investigate, arriving in 1964 to witness the lifeboat anomaly. Now, there were several things beyond the mere existence of the boat that were cause for confusion. Not only was it relatively intact, it was found floating in a lagoon 30 yards inland from the shore. On the rocks 100 yards away was a 44-gallon drum and a pair of oars, with pieces of wood and a copper flotation or buoyancy tank opened out flat for some purpose. After conducting a brief search of the surrounding area, Crawford and his team could find no survivors, let alone the remains of a camp or any habitation at all. With no sign of the boat ever possessing a sail or engine, and only one pair of oars, it was unthinkable how it could have traveled any significant distance over the open ocean. Why was the boat not dragged further inland and used as firewood or shelter? And why was the copper tank pressed flat? Unfortunately for Crawford, he and his team only had a brief window to investigate, collect samples of the plateau, and survey the area. As if to punctuate the mystery of it all, the next vessel to visit the island in 1966 made no mention of the marooned vessel, despite being occupied with the very same lagoon. So we are left stranded, perhaps much like the theoretical occupants of that ill-fated lifeboat, with scant few lifelines to follow to our rescue. Thankfully, we have the internet, with all its intrepid theorists and investigators, piecing together all the plausible causes of this wildly unlikely occurrence. Many possible solutions have been suggested, each with their own supporters and naysayers. A marooned lifeboat, an unfortunate research vessel left stranded, or, as is tradition, victims of an alien abduction dropped off in the wrong place. Unlike most mysteries, this one might have an answer. As late as mid-2016, a credible solution was found. As it turns out, the Soviet Union were in the habit of sending a whaling fleet to Antarctic waters every year, and coincidentally not in the habit of informing Western nations about their comings and goings. After some expert sleuthing, user Qualis Libe, or Libet, on Reddit managed to dig up records that indicate a ship that was part of one such fleet, the Slava 9, visited the island in November of 1958. A group of sailors landed near Cape Circumcision, but the weather turned sour, forcing them to stay on the island for 3 days, eventually being rescued by a helicopter, hence the abandoned boat. The lack of any camp or signs of habitation probably means they took any supplies they had back with them when they departed, besides the boat and the pair of oars, which were too heavy or unwieldy. Some questions have to be answered with our best guesses, however. For example, the conspicuous absence of the boat upon the next documented visit to the island. Perhaps the Southern Ocean finally swallowed up what evidence remained of that landing. Or maybe the Soviets returned to finally clean up their mess. A less likely explanation. As for the flattened copper flotation device, here we can turn to the comments on Mike Dash's excellent article on the subject for inspiration. It's possible that it was hammered flat as some sort of makeshift signal. But we now know the Slava fleet was very aware of the sailors' presence on the island, so going to that trouble would be unlikely. Another explanation is offered by user Bo, who mentions the possibility of it being used as a grounding system for a ham radio, used by one Gus Browning, a ham radio enthusiast who went on an expedition to Bouvet Island in 1962. Not only did Browning make contact from Bouvet Island, but the timestamp lies within the time frame required for our mystery. Bow makes note that this adventure was documented in a ham radio monthly magazine named 73 Magazine, but it ceased publication in 2003, and the issue that it was mentioned in was published, naturally, 44 years ago. Amazingly, the author of the original article, Mike Dash, managed to get a hold of our publication stored in the Library of Congress and found the article in question. Browning's description of his landing spot, a flat area about the size of 2 football pitches, sounds exactly like the plateau which was around the spot that the lifeboat was found. Not only that, but get this, he had a large drum of petrol, approximately 50 gallons, with him as well. Both these stories combined give us a very plausible origin of what Crawford found on that day in 1962. There are more details and eccentric characters surrounding expeditions to this island, but I have stolen enough from Mike's article. I thoroughly recommend reading it and following the chain of comments as the mystery slowly unravels. To some, the combination of these two theories is enough to explain the mystery. But to others, the idea of a lone sailor marooned in the loneliest place on Earth is far too tragically romantic an idea to abandon.
Since then, only a handful of scientists have now and then challenged destiny to spend a few hours or days behind Devil's Peak, an apt name given to this tooth-shaped cliff. Other creatures, far better endowed for this environment than man, seem to be playing idly in relaxed self-reliance, full of contempt over the clumsiness of man. Soaked by the 2 centigrade water of the South Atlantic, I made no attempt to empty my boots. I found after a while that it had been warmed enough by my body to provide good insulation against ice-cold air temperatures. Indeed, West Wind Beach is no place for man. But that very fact in turn explains they should continue to run the risk of getting their feet wet, rather than slamming heavy technology into this nature reserve. they need not be ashamed of visiting Bouvet Island now and then, in the just cause of keeping track of the whims of nature on nature's own terms.
the idea that will make us wealthy and powerful, perhaps, well, likely. So the title is Politics as Art. We will have a show or somehow document how we look upon politics as art. We treat it as any other art form. We review certain actors on this stage as if it was just art and not more real nor unreal than any other art. It's just art, politics as art. Examples to follow.
Wish I'd spend